So let's go over what you have and see if you have any questions. This is important that you sketch, that you know which way you're going with this. Make sure you understand which direction you're going, to the left or to the right. That's really important. All your percentages start at the left. This is where your area goes, left to right. Just like you read a sentence. You're gathering your area from the left to the right. Every time you look up your z-score, it is to the left. So if you want a percentile, like the 80th percentile, you want to be better than 80% of the people. You want the area to the left as 80. If you want to be in the top 20, that's this piece here. That's this piece here. But if you're going to look it up, you're going to look up 1 minus 20. If you look up the 20 and you did your sketch, you'll realize it's the negative, but then you realize it's symmetric, and you can just take the negative sign away and use the positive. If you use your sketch, it's going to help you see that. If you don't sketch, you're not going to see it. So we had a scenario where we're looking for the 95th percentile. Do your inverse norm, find your z-score for your 95th, God bless you, percentile, plug it in, and come up with your z-score. Your x value. Plug your z-score into here, and use your formula. If you want the first quartile, third quartile, second quartile, quarters are 25 cents. Think percent, 25%. So 1 quarter is 25%. The third quartile is 75%. It just works like money. So you want to find your inverse norm for the lower 25%. Once you plug this guy in, make sure you put the negative in. The formula takes care of itself. You know how we start in the middle, we add, then we subtract, going the other way? The formula takes care of that when you put the negative sign in there. Questions? This is important that you know which way you're going. All right, if you have any questions, stop me.
Actually, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I want to find 75%. Is 25%, 75% both of the same thing?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
How would you like to do?
Okay. So Darian says 25% is over here, 75% is over here, but they both have the same area on the outside, right?
Yeah.
So if you looked up the lower 25% in your calculator, do an inverse norm 0.25.
Goes up to 0.674.
Okay? Now, it's negative because it's below the zero, right?
Negative.
Negative. Now, if my curve is symmetric, what would that z-score be on this end when this is also 25% in the tail?
0.67.
0.67. So you can do this either way. You can look up the 25%, and because your sketch says you're on the positive side, turn it positive, you can look up the 1 minus 25%. Either way you want to go with that. I would love you to be able to see that your curve is symmetric. If you looked up the 25, you place it over here at the 75 to be positive. If you can see that, that means you're getting a good grip on this. But, God bless you, the problem is without sketching it, it's not staring at you. You don't see it. So you just put in whatever your calculator says. So that's really, really important that you sketch this. Okay, we have another scenario. Our mean is 17.4. Our standard deviation is 4. We want the 10th percentile. You're better than 10% of the people, or whatever this is. So 10% to the left. Inverse norm, 10%. We get a negative. We expected a negative z-score. It's to the left of the mean. Plug it in and find out your x value. And make it make sense. If you want to sketch your curve and you want to do the whole thing out while you're getting comfortable with this, this is a good way to do this. Just add 4 all the way up and subtract 4 all the way down. And then you'll kind of get a feel for which way you're going. Now you can see your 10% and your X value. Oops. You can see where your 12 falls. We use a different color. Here it is. You can see where this guy falls in here somewhere. And you expected it to be in the lower end. Remember your curve, most of it's falling in the middle, between 1 and -1. Between 2 and -2 is 95% of that curve. Remember, the tails are very small. We just kind of make them a little bigger, or we can't fit any of our information on our curve. But your tails, it tends to be a little bit taller, and it tends to go more like this. So your tails are small, okay? To put it in perspective, the third quartile, you want 75% of your data to your left. You want to be better than 75%, 3/4. Quarters are worth 25 cents. So figure it that way. So, and as Darian said before, if we did the 25, we can use the positive end of it because you know you're above the mean. You know your curve is symmetric. There's a lot of ways to play this out. Plug it in. If you use the formula and you do inverse norm allows you, just like we did with the area with the z-scores, it also allows you, like say for this one, I'm going to do 75%. I could change my mean and my standard deviation, and then when I plug this in and I paste this, it will return my X value. If you use this, I still need to see a sketch, and I need to see your calculator step. Because if you put it in wrong, I don't see it, and neither do you. So one answer is wrong, and I need to see work on your answers or you don't get credit. So you still have to do your sketch, and you have to give me your calculator step. $44, they're kind of repetitious a little bit. The top 25%, so therefore, if this is 25%, to the left of you is 75%. If you looked up 25%, you got the negative z-score. Move it into the positive, because your chart is symmetric. That's the one we just did before with Darian. The negative 0.67, the positive 0.67. Plug it in. The bottom 15%, right down here. I'll always keep track of what your problem is asking. The one we did with the tires was exceptional because the top 10%, the top 1% for it was braking, for your braking distance, has to be small. Whereas the upper one there is when you're not braking very well. So just be careful of which way you're going with your application. That's why a sketch is always good to include. The bottom 15%, the top 25, the bottom 15, and make it make sense. I expected this to be above my mean. I expect this to be below my mean. Your mean is at 50%. Good? Okay. It's a little repetitious, but I think by doing that over and over, sketching, seeing which way you're going on your curve, it does start to make a little bit more sense. So we find your mean, we find your standard deviation. You want the lower 5%. 5%, when you move this decimal, is not 0.5, it's 0.05. If you looked up 50%, you're going to get the 0 z-score. You know it can't be in the middle, right? So you know you had your decimal placed in the wrong place. And that standard deviation is very small. It's less than 0.1. That standard deviation is really small. So your numbers are close to that mean. And the last one, 46, you want your upper 7.5. Remember to move your decimal place 2 to the left. 0.075, not 75%. Find your z-score, plug it in. And make sure, and look how small that standard deviation is. So make sure it's to the right of that mean. Not going to be by a lot, but it's going to be by enough. Questions? Questions about the sketch, the percentiles, the upper, the lower? No? Making sense? Okay, what I'm going to do is give you a review. And we're going to start it now. So let's have you do this review. 15 minutes today, 15 minutes tomorrow, and then we'll go over it for your test.